As the years pass, I've come to see my home differently. It's no longer just walls and furniture. It's a mirror. It reflects who I am, what I value, and sometimes what I've been afraid to let go of. There are drawers filled with things I once thought I needed, shelves that tell stories of other times, other versions of me. But lately, when I walk through the quiet rooms, I can feel the weight of it all. The clutter, the noise, the memories piled up like dust in the corners. One morning, with the soft light spilling through the curtains, I decided to start fresh. Not by redecorating, but by simplifying. I cleared one small space, a table by the window. I placed a single plant, a candle, and a cup of tea. The moment I stepped back, the room felt lighter, quieter, and so did I. Our homes hold our stories, but they also hold our energy. When we create calm around us, we invite calm within us. So today, I want to share a few simple decor ideas, not to impress, but to bring peace. Because when your home breathes, you can too. And maybe that's where healing begins.
I used to believe that a beautiful home was one filled with beautiful things. I wanted cozy corners, pretty shelves, and colors that made every room feel alive. So I bought a little here, a little there, a new lamp, another pillow, a piece of art that caught my eye. I told myself it was all for comfort, for warmth, for beauty. But somewhere along the way, the warmth turned into weight. Every surface seemed to hold something I didn't really need, and every drawer was a quiet reminder of how much I'd tried to fill the emptiness inside with things outside. One morning, I walked into my living room, the place I'd once imagined as a sanctuary, and it just felt heavy. Not physically, but emotionally. The colors, the clutter, the endless little pieces of me scattered everywhere suddenly looked like noise. I remember standing there with my coffee in hand, staring at it all, and feeling tired. Not because I had too much to do, but because I had too much. That was the day I decided to let go. It started small. A few old books I hadn't opened in years, then the extra dishes, the decorative items that never truly meant anything. The first few things were hard. It felt like I was saying goodbye to memories. But as the shelves cleared, something surprising began to happen. The house started to breathe again, and so did I. I began to understand that peace doesn't come from abundance. It comes from space. The more I removed, the calmer everything felt. I started to notice the light pouring through the window, the quiet hum of morning, the way my home sounded when it wasn't filled with noise. It was like finding silence after years of static. For a long time, I thought creating a beautiful life meant adding more experiences, more possessions, more achievements. But what if beauty isn't in what we add, but in what we choose to keep? When I stripped away the unnecessary, I started to see what truly mattered. The chair where I read every morning, the mug that fits perfectly in my hands, the framed photo of my family laughing in the backyard. Those few, simple things held more meaning than any store-bought item ever could. Calm, I realized, isn't created by decorating our lives. It's created by designing them intentionally, choosing what stays, choosing what supports peace, not pressure, what reminds us of who we are, not who we're trying to impress. Now when I walk through my home, there's air, light, and presence. I can hear the sound of the wind outside. I can feel the stillness in the walls. My home no longer feels like a museum of things I've collected. It feels like a reflection of who I've become. Sometimes friends visit and say, "It feels so peaceful in here." They ask how I did it, what style, what brand, what secret. And I smile because the answer isn't in something you can buy. It's in what you let go of. There's a quiet kind of beauty in less. When we stop trying to fill every corner, we make room for the moments that truly fill us: laughter, sunlight, rest. The home becomes not a place to show off, but a place to return to, a space that doesn't demand anything from you, except to simply be. Maybe we all reach a point in life where we realize we've been carrying too much, not just in our homes, but in our hearts. We chase after more because the world tells us that's where happiness lives. But peace, real peace, isn't found in having everything. It's found in keeping only what matters. So now I keep fewer things, but every one of them has a story, a purpose, a place. And every time I walk through the quiet of my home, I'm reminded of this truth: calm isn't created by what you add. Calm is created by what you choose to keep. And that, I've learned, is more than enough.
I used to think light was just light, something you switch on without a second thought. But as the years went by, I began to notice how lighting shapes the way we feel. The harsh blue glow from my phone or the cold brightness of overhead bulbs made my home feel rushed, almost sterile. Then one evening, during a power outage, I lit a few candles. The room filled with a soft golden glow. Shadows danced on the walls, and suddenly everything felt calm. Safe, even. I sat there, breathing in the quiet, realizing how much I'd missed this kind of stillness. Now I choose light more carefully. I open the curtains wide in the morning, letting sunlight spill across the kitchen table. In the evenings, I switch to warm bulbs and small lamps, the kind that invite you to slow down and stay a while. That soft light wraps the room in peace, like a gentle reminder that home isn't about perfection, it's about comfort. It's strange how something as simple as light can change the way your heart feels. Maybe peace begins there, not with grand changes, but with the quiet warmth that reminds you you are safe, you are home, and you can finally rest. I never used to think much about plants. To me, they were just decoration, something people bought to fill an empty corner. But a few years ago, when life started feeling heavy and the house felt colder than it should, I brought home a small fern. Nothing fancy, just a simple green thing sitting quietly on the windowsill. I didn't expect much, but over time I noticed something change. The air felt softer. The room felt alive again. And somehow I did too. Every morning, I'd see the way sunlight touched its leaves, how it reached, slowly and gracefully, toward the light. There was something humbling about it. That little fern wasn't rushing anywhere. It was just being, steady, patient, content with where it was. And in its quiet way, it taught me something I hadn't learned from years of chasing more. Peace doesn't need to be big. Sometimes it's as small as remembering to water what's already here. Now I keep just a few plants around, enough to make the house breathe, but not too many to crowd the calm. They remind me to slow down, to notice, to care. In their stillness, I find a reflection of the life I've been searching for. Simple, grounded, alive. For years, I thought a beautiful home meant keeping up with trends, bold walls, fancy decor, colors that shouted for attention. But the more I filled my space, the more restless I felt inside. One day, I decided to strip it all back. I painted the walls a soft beige, cleared the shelves,
and let the sunlight touch the wood floors again, suddenly my home started to breathe, and so did I. That's when I realized minimalism isn't about white walls or perfect design. It's about creating a space that feels like a deep exhale. Calm colors, the warmth of wood, the softness of linen, the quiet of cream tones have a way of slowing the mind. They remind us that peace doesn't need to be loud to be beautiful. Now, when I sit with my morning coffee, surrounded by gentle light and simple textures, I feel something I never did before. Ease, a quiet kind of joy that doesn't demand anything. Because when your surroundings stop shouting, your heart starts speaking. And maybe that's what home is meant to be, not a showplace, but a sanctuary for your soul to rest. I remember walking into my grandmother's kitchen as a child. The table was always bare, save for a small vase of fresh flowers. Nothing else. No piles of mail, no half-finished projects, no cluttered thoughts spilling onto the surface. She would sit there, quietly sipping her tea, and I never understood it back then. Now, decades later, I do. A table covered in objects creates mental noise. Papers stacked like little walls, dishes left from yesterday, reminders of tasks unfinished. It all whispers at once, tugging at your mind, keeping you from just being. But a clear surface, a clear surface is different. It breathes. It invites you to sit, to pause, to think without interruption. Clearing the table is never just about tidying. It's about giving yourself permission to clear your mind. It's about reclaiming the space to notice the sunlight on the floorboards, to hear the quiet hum of life around you, to remember that moments don't have to be filled with things to be meaningful. Sometimes the simplest act, wiping the table clean, can remind you that peace, like clarity, starts with space. And with that space, you can finally breathe again. I still remember the first time I walked slowly through my own living room, really noticing each item I had collected over the years. A ceramic vase from a trip I barely remembered, a stack of books I never opened, a photo frame gathering dust in the corner. They were all beautiful, but somehow they felt heavy. I realized my home was full of things that didn't speak to me anymore, things that whispered memories I wasn't ready to carry. So I began gently letting go. One morning, I picked up the old vase, turned it over in my hands, and whispered a quiet goodbye. The room felt lighter, calmer, almost as if it could finally breathe. Each object I kept now has a purpose. It tells a story, sparks a memory, or simply brings a sense of peace when I glance at it. There is magic in simplicity, in surrounding yourself only with what matters, with what soothes your soul. Now, when I enter my home, it feels like a gentle hug, not a weight on my shoulders. And in that quiet, I've found something more precious than possessions. A space where my mind can rest, my heart can open, and my life can feel truly lived.
There's a little corner in my home I call my calm corner. Just a chair, draped with a soft warm blanket, a small plant that leans toward the light, and a lamp that glows like a quiet afternoon sun. It doesn't look like much, nothing flashy, nothing complicated, but it's exactly what I need. Here, I let myself breathe, slowly, deeply, like the world outside has paused for a moment. Sometimes I close my eyes and feel the weight of the day slip from my shoulders, the chatter in my mind softening to a gentle hum. Other times, I just watch the light dance across the leaves of my little plant, letting its quiet resilience remind me that life keeps moving patiently, even when I feel stuck. This corner isn't about escaping life, it's about returning to it with a calmer heart. In these simple moments, I remember that peace isn't found in grand gestures or endless to-do lists. It's found in small, deliberate spaces where the soul can settle, where I can simply be. And every time I leave, I carry a little of that calm with me, tucked quietly into the rhythm of my day.
As the morning sun spills through my window, it feels different now, gentler, slower, as if the light itself has learned to pause. I used to rush through these hours, coffee in hand, skimming headlines, juggling tasks that never seemed to end. But lately, I've been noticing the quiet spaces in my home. The small corners where sunlight touches a chair just so, or the soft hum of the refrigerator in the background. It's in these pauses that I feel a strange, unfamiliar relief. A peace that isn't flashy or loud, it's subtle, almost shy, but it grounds me in ways I didn't know I was missing. When I began to simplify my home, I thought I was just tidying, sorting books I hadn't opened in years, folding clothes I never wore, clearing shelves cluttered with half-forgotten souvenirs. It was work, yes, but it was meaningful work. And soon I realized something remarkable. As I arranged my home, I was arranging something deeper. Not just the objects themselves, but my spirit. The way a favorite mug sat neatly on the counter, or the way sunlight pooled on a bare wooden table, became symbols of calm I could touch. Each little decision to keep only what truly mattered was also a decision to honor myself, my time, my mind. I began to notice how the rhythm of my home affected the rhythm of my life. When my living room was crowded, I felt crowded. When surfaces were cluttered, my thoughts were cluttered, racing faster than I could catch them. But as I cleared spaces, I began to breathe differently. There's a kind of magic in empty space, a gentle invitation to slow down, to notice the moments between moments. A chair in the corner doesn't just sit there, it asks you to pause. A single vase on the windowsill doesn't just hold flowers, it holds attention, focus, a quiet sense of beauty. And it's not about perfection, far from it. There are still dishes in the sink, clothes on the chair, reminders that life moves and messes happen. But the difference now is intention. The difference is choice. I choose what belongs here and what does not. I choose what deserves my time, my energy, my gaze. And in that choice, I find freedom. I think about the people I meet, the friends who visit, the neighbors who peek in with curiosity. They often comment on how my home feels different, lighter, warmer, welcoming. And I realize it's true, but it's more than just the furniture or the decor. It's the feeling carried in each corner, the breathability, the openness. When my home breathes, I breathe. My heart slows, my thoughts untangle. My spirit feels room to move. There's a lesson here, subtle and profound. Life itself is cluttered, filled with obligations, regrets, distractions. But just like a home, our inner spaces can be simplified. We can clear the unnecessary, keep the essential, and honor the moments that truly matter. It's not always easy. It requires patience, honesty, and sometimes a gentle letting go. But the reward is unmistakable. A sense of calm, a clarity of purpose, and a soft, enduring joy. Some days I sit by the window with a cup of tea, watching the leaves turn in the gentle breeze, And I marvel at the quiet miracle of simplicity. I think about how easy it is to overlook the ordinary, to fill our lives with noise and distractions until we can't hear the whisper of our own hearts. And then I remember that it's never too late to pause, to simplify, to notice. As you walk through your home tonight, or tomorrow, or any day soon, take a moment to see what can be released, what can be cleared to make room for breath, for light, for presence. Each item, each surface, each space has a story, and each choice you make shapes not just your home, but your spirit. And slowly, quietly, you may notice something extraordinary. The world slows down around you, the tension in your shoulders eases, and a quiet, steady peace settles in. As you simplify your home, you're not just arranging objects, you're arranging your spirit. And when your home breathes, you breathe.
If this video brought you a moment of calm today, perhaps it was more than just a pause. Maybe it was a gentle reminder that life doesn't always have to move so fast, that the rush, the noise, the endless to-do lists, none of it defines who we are. I remember a morning not long ago sitting by my kitchen window with a cup of tea, the sunlight brushing the wooden table, and feeling an unexpected quiet settle into my chest. Outside, the world was still moving, cars humming, neighbors calling out, birds arguing in the trees. But inside, I discovered a space that felt mine, even for a few fleeting moments. That small, uncluttered moment carried a weight that the busiest day could not. Life, as we've learned over the years, often fills itself with more. More things, more schedules, more obligations. We chase, we acquire, we rush, and sometimes we lose sight of the simple truths that once brought us joy. Yet, when we slow down, when we let the clutter in our homes and the clutter in our hearts settle, something magical happens. We begin to see the beauty in small, everyday rituals, the soft hum of morning light across the floor, the smell of earth after rain, the quiet heartbeat of a house finally at rest. These are not grand moments. They are ordinary, yet they hold a richness that no busy day could ever offer. That is why I invite you to join our Simple Earth Studio community. Here, we don't just declutter our homes, we gently clear the space in our hearts too. We share the lessons of slowing down, of noticing, of letting go. It's a place where warmth, simplicity, and authenticity guide us back to the essence of living fully, without noise or distraction. Together, we discover that peace isn't a faraway destination. It's a series of small choices, small breaths, small acts of care that accumulate into a life that feels intentional, meaningful, and above all, gentle. So if today you felt even the slightest sense of calm, hold on to it. Let it remind you that you deserve this. A life with space to breathe, to reflect, to simply be. And know that in this quiet, shared community, you are never alone.